Again, welcome everyone. So the agenda for today's webinar will be first a brief introduction by Professor Geoff Rogers, who will be talking a little bit on the history of Brunel in terms of how it collaborates with industry. Afterwards, we'll get an introduction to the KTP schemes by Jerry O'Hagan, who's our KTP advisor for this area. After that, we'll have a case study from a business perspective from Clarkhead. And after that, there will be a case study from the academic perspective from Professor Diane Miners. And at the very end, we'll have my colleague Rachel Birch at the research office at Brunel, who will talk about the KTPs at Brunel. And as I mentioned, at the very end, there will be a question and answer session. So yes, as I mentioned, Geoff Rogers, the Pro Vice Chancellor for Enterprise and Employment here at Brunel, will give a brief introduction.
So thanks, Remco. Thank you very much, Remco, and welcome to everybody to this event. I wasn't going to say too much about Brunel's history. I'd probably want to provoke a reminder that, but perhaps I should just say, first of all, that if there is any institution that ought to be doing KTPs, then it is Brunel, because, of course, we were invented to work with industry, and KTPs are a great way of doing that. So I think I won't say any more about Brunel than that. I think we now see KTPs as an important part of kind of an innovation escalator for businesses, particularly. So thinking about, we now have a quite new RHYME program operated by RSGO Research, Innovate and Emerge, which introduces businesses to universities and innovation funding. We have innovation vouchers. We have the KTPs, which are probably a little bit bigger than the innovation vouchers, a little bit more of a commitment from the business. We have obviously larger Innovate UK vehicles that you can apply for funding for. And we still have access to research for SMEs from the EU, which are larger vehicles for working with business. And then we have EPSRC funding and collaborative research at the higher end. And so you can see KTPs as a stepping stone on that sort of innovation escalator for businesses. But also you can think about the same a little bit for staff as well, as they're developing their careers, to be doing those smaller projects and then working with businesses to move up that stairway. And I think these days there is much more of a premium for universities on working with businesses that haven't worked with universities before, or haven't had innovation funding, or haven't had either, and helping them to get used to working with universities, do their first project, understand what innovation's about, innovate successfully, develop a new product process, do it, realize that this is the sort of thing they need to do regularly, and continue to go around that virtuous circle. And so I think we now no longer see universities all chasing after the sort of the top 20 or 100 or 1,000 businesses in the UK and getting to work with them, but also helping some of the smaller, mid-size or newly formed businesses to get started with innovation, to jump into the water and to realize that that's how they can distinguish themselves in the market, develop something new, make sales and be successful and grow and create jobs. So I think KTPs are a very important ingredient in that sort of ecosystem. And so, I think absolutely vital part of the funding mechanisms we have available for businesses, and a vital way in which we work with businesses at the university. So I think this is a really important session. I think I'll stop there. Thank you very much for taking the time to find out a bit more about it, because I think it's a useful thing to understand and be able to draw and possibly take part in if you find the right opportunity. Thanks, Remco. I'll hand back to you and let you introduce Jerry.
Thank you very much, Geoff. That was very good. So I will pass over to Jerry as soon as I can find a way to stop sharing. There we go.
Thanks, Remco. Let me just share my screen at this point in time, and then we can go forward from there.
So while Jerry is uploading the slides, so Jerry is our KTP advisor for this area. So if you want to apply for a KTP, then you'll be working with him.
Is that sharing okay? Can people see the slides all right, Remco?
Yeah, that's perfect. Thank you.
Great. Okay, folks, thanks very much for coming along today. My job here is to build on what was said as the introduction there, to emphasize and to encourage and cajole and persuade you to take part in the KTP program. It's worthwhile just starting with the premise behind the program. The program, which has been running for 48 years now, it's due for its 50th anniversary in a couple of years' time, which is the longest running funded innovation scheme in the world by quite some margin. The premise behind it is, or was, and continues to be, that there is a huge amount of knowledge and experience and value sitting latently in the university system in the UK that's not making its way into the real economy, either quickly enough nor effectively enough. So the scheme was designed to create a partnership between a company or an organization. It's more than simple businesses, but mostly businesses, with a university team to work together to take a concept or a challenge through from an idea through into something practical that can be implemented in the UK economy, either as a product or a service or an improvement in performance in some way, shape or form that can realize economic value for the company and a whole range of benefits for the academic team who are working on the project, and a range of benefits to the project manager who the partners hire to deliver the project. So that's the concept. And as I say, that concept has been running very successfully for a long period of time now. So a KTP creates a three-way partnership that provides the expertise to innovate, it provides funding to enable innovation to take place, and it also adds resource to help drive transformational positive change. And the partnership works between a business, and it needs to be a business problem or challenge that leads the development of the project, with an academic team who have knowledge and experience and capacity and energy to share with the business to help them develop either through the challenge or overcome or to accept the opportunity. And then an associate who's a graduate, a recent graduate, who's recruited by the partners, who works for the academic team, but actually is based in the business's premises, to take the ideas and the thoughts from the academic team, to translate them into a product or service, and then to help the company launch that product or service into the marketplace to enable them to grow their company. Now, I've emphasized in what I've said so far that the change that takes place is economic. And for all partnerships, whichever flavor that they are, there is an element of economic advantage. And by economic advantage, we're really talking about incremental profit or incremental surplus, depending on the business's mission. But there are also real opportunities to develop societal and environmental value as well with a KTP. And we're moving towards a more balanced way of thinking about economic, societal, and environmental objectives, and being able to convene projects with a slightly different balance than we have in the past. But there will remain a need to demonstrate economic value creating opportunities from an economic point of view. So the project needs to be stimulating and challenging for three partners. It needs to be strategic for the company in some way, shape, or form. It needs to be exciting and enticing for the academic partners, and it needs to present an opportunity to develop for the associate. The project and the associate are fully integrated into the business with joint business and academic supervision. The knowledge-based supervisor, who's the principal academic involved in doing real work on the project, invests time and expertise supporting the business and the KTP associates. And that's about half a day a week on average. As I said, the associate is employed by the university partner, but crucially, they're recruited jointly by both partners. And the project can be delivered through a blend of virtual, hybrid, or face-to-face working models. Project can be between 12 and 36 months. And along with the project comes a structured project management framework that's provided by the KTP Adviser who supports the project to help enable the mechanisms of collaboration and development that take place that are crucial to the outcomes of the project. So typical project profile, I mean, the intent of the slide is to demonstrate that almost any organization can take part in the program. The vast majority are SME organizations that have a business focus, but it does encompass charities, it does encompass other not-for-profit organizations. And we've recently come back to some public service or public sector organizations as well. So there's a whole panoply of organizations that can participate in the program, but the core target is companies who are in what we call a step-up mode. They are SMEs, they have a business model that they're looking to develop and grow, and they need some support from the academic team to help step up that growth and that opportunity going forward. But it can be any size, any sector, including virtual and third sector. Public sector is for a particular category of projects, which are called management KTPs. And then it can be any subject, as long as it's innovative, business-led, and strategically relevant. I'll talk more about the criteria in another slide in a moment, so I'll gloss over that for the moment. And it needs to deliver quantifiable benefits for all three partners. And for the UK economy, it needs to create economic, societal, and environmental impact. So given all those things, what are the benefits to business? The essential thing that a KTP can do is it is capable of providing transformation for your business. I've been doing this for quite a long time now, and it always amazes me when we sit and talk about a project, and then when it comes to life, the scale of the transformation that can unfold from a successful KTP project. So it provides access to world-class expertise, fantastic technology, and fresh thinking to unlock accelerated and de-risked innovation, to provide the company with competitive advantage, to help them increase revenue, and most importantly, profit. Enables them to introduce new or improved products or services, processes, or improve productivity. It creates the potential for new intellectual property for the organization and delivers positive societal and environmental impact over and above the financial economic benefits that are a core part of the project. And crucially, because it's a learning, generative, social enterprise in and of itself that's founded on collaboration, it helps develop a culture of innovation within the organization that underpins future growth and development for the company partner. You do get, expert support from a dedicated advisor from the organization I work for, which is Innovate UK KTN. The idea is that you build a relationship, as Jeff was saying, with the academia to enable ongoing collaborations to open up and include new opportunities. The academics benefit significantly from participation as well. And the benefits are in the currency that is useful to the academic world and to individual academics. So impacts that contribute to REF and KEF, the opportunity to write journal papers and case studies, the opportunity to enrich their teaching materials, and in many projects to develop projects for students to get involved in the project. It applies their real academic knowledge to real world solutions. It does add some research income, although I wouldn't be going to the bank on the basis of an individual KTP for that point of view. But crucially, in many ways, it develops staff and also presents an opportunity for graduate careers from the institution and builds the commercial awareness of the academics so that the research can be commissioned and developed in a way that provides real value to the UK economy. And hopefully, it will foster that strategic relationship with business that I was speaking about earlier. Now, the associate you know, they are a crucial stakeholder in the program as well from the funders' perspective. Their opportunity is to become a future innovation leader, delivering a transformational strategic project. And the experience of doing that stands them in fantastic stead for their future career. It's a career springboard that allows them to solve a real world challenge, develops valuable leadership management and project management skills and experience. And it does that through formal learning as well as the experience of working on the project. It does offer a pretty competitive salary these days and very generous professional development budget for the associate to spend on developing themselves in service of the project, but also in service of their future career. And they benefit from that continuous personal development that exists all the way through the project. And they are mentored by both the academic supervisor, the company supervisor, and also the KTP advisor. Maybe a simple measure of success is that 75% of the associates are offered employment by the host business that their project is with. Something like 60% of them take up that role. And those that don't usually have a better opportunity to go to than the one they're offered by their company partner. So four assessment criteria. I'm not going to read out the slide. In developing an application, it has to demonstrate impact, and you can see from the slide what that means. It also has to demonstrate that it's innovative, and that's innovative at least at the level of the company. If it's innovative at the level of the universe, that's fantastic, but we don't expect every project to be innovative to that degree. As long as it's new and novel for the company, that can be sufficient. It does need to offer all parties a challenge to help them grow and develop, and it needs to be planned cohesively, so it needs to be credible. The outputs are going to be a forecast in the future, but they need to be believable and credible, and the plan to deliver them needs to be sensible. So to take part in the program, there is a grant contribution to be made from the organization, whichever size or scale it is. So for an SME, grant is funded at 67%. So 33% of the project costs have to be paid by the company partner. For a large company, it's 50%. And for a third sector organization, 75% is grant funded. And at the bottom, it shows you that the average total KTP cost per project per annum is between 80 and 100K per year. So that gives you a sense, depending how long your project is, what the funding is going to be to support a KTP contribution. I like to describe KTPs as a microeconomic intervention. So they work at the level of an individual firm or organization, transforming the economy through that individual project and that individual business unit. But actually, when you scale up at a program level, it's a much bigger enterprise in total. Currently, there are 768 projects running with over 100 university partners involved. Our target is to get to 1,000 projects by 2024. There are 800 associates working in industry at this point in time, with 700 business partners. And you can see the scale and value of the types of organizations that are involved. The crucial point to make certainly from an academic point of view is the funding success rate. Many grant applications sit in the range between 5 and 15% approval for the grant funding. For a KTP, because it's supported in its development, the success rate is about 80%. So if we submit an application, there's an 80% opportunity for that being funded. I'm going to stop there, folks, because that is a brief introduction to the project or the program. Just to say that there is a range of people who do my role right across the UK, and our job is there to support and help businesses and universities come together to develop applications and then to support the projects through to fruition. And I'll leave just with some sense of value creation from the program. We quote statistics that tell us that 72% of projects deliver the benefits that they write in the application that they submit. And actually, of that, there are a very high percentage who over-deliver. So that in total, either delivering or over-deliver, there's 92% of projects meet what they said on the tin when the application goes in. So if we get to the point where we submit, then we've got a great opportunity to deliver enormous transformational value for your organization. I'll leave it at that, Remco, and hand back to you there.
Thank you very much, Derek, for this introduction to KTP. Now we'll move on to Clive Kurtz, who has been working on a KTP himself with this company, with Brunel for a few years already. So Clive Kurtz, could you upload your slides and then give your view on how it has worked for you?
I shall indeed. Hopefully you can see my screen, hopefully, the slides.
Yeah, we can see that. Perfect.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you for that. My name is Clarkhead. I'm a director of Veritas Advisory. We're doing a KTP with Brunel, and actually Jerry is a KTP advisor. I'm just going to really cover just a few points about what we're doing, a bit of background to the project, the benefit of a KTP, which I see to the project and the business, some of the challenges we've come across, and also what we've achieved to date. We are 18 months in of a 24-month project, so we're getting towards the end of it, and it's all really getting quite exciting of what we've achieved to date. To give you an idea of a bit of background, we're a consultancy firm. We give advice to owners and occupiers of property to save tax via government incentives. The government incentive is called capital allowance. It's based on complex rules and precedent case law. And the whole point of it is to encourage people to invest, other businesses, to invest in plant and equipment to grow their businesses. But part of that is you have to identify what you've spent to be able to claim this benefit. To give an example, if you buy a train carriage, or you buy an aircraft, or you buy a piece of plant and machinery, or a forklift truck, you can claim a capital allowance on it and you get a tax deduction. However, when you're looking at property, which is what our sector is, it gets a little bit more complicated. So if you think about when you're walking down a high street, there's lots of shops which people have spent money on, or there may be an office, industrial building, hotels, gyms, dentists, restaurants, care home facilities, all these kind of properties. Owner occupiers and investors spend money on them, they build them, they refurbish them, and you're allowed a tax relief on all these different properties. However, a property is made up of thousands of different materials. It incorporates lots of labor and design fees, and all these different assets have different asset lives. For instance, a wall lasts longer than a carpet, and what we have to do is identify each different item and classify it for tax purposes. So it is recognised by the government and most accountants and most people in the industry that what we do is, and the rules are very complicated, and they're not easy to solve. So they looked at trying to solve this problem, but decided it would cause too much disruption. So we had the idea that actually we could therefore use technology to do this. So the next point I was coming across as well, how do I get technology into the business? So we looked at doing a KTP, and that's where we ended up getting to. Just to give you a context in terms of the size of the market we deal with, probably there's at least over 2 million claims every year by companies and sole traders. That's probably worth about 20 billion in tax every year. In the last budget, the government put an incentive in to claim some of these items over the next sort of 3 or 4 years and increase the tax benefit to 30 billion. So it's not an insignificant amount that people can claim. But the problem is that with all these items, small SMEs don't really understand the processes, neither do unexperienced accountants. It's difficult to get, the information you get is fairly rubbish and in different formats. So what we're trying to do is come out of a system that takes this data, it supplements it, it uses technology to do that, it codes it, and it makes this process much simpler and easier and more accessible. Currently, small companies either misclaiming, or they underclaim, or they overclaim, or they get it wrong. And the whole point of this technology is that people can use it to make it efficient to claim it, and that it's more accurate in the future. In terms of the actual project, we started in March 2020, where we did the application. And I think one of the key benefits I found about a KTP, and speaking with Jerry actually when we were doing the actual grant application, is one of the questions I got asked was, what do I understand about technology business and the technology? Which I did have to respond was probably not that much. I understand the concept, but I didn't understand the business proposition. So we turned it around to, how can I grow the consultancy business with the help of the technology? And that is really our business plan going forward. We use the technology to help us get in to talk to accountants to understand what projects they've got available, and therefore that then expands our consultancy business in pushing forward how our business is going to grow. The other key lesson I learned with dealing with Yongmin, who's our academic supervisor, is how you go about developing a technology. Whereas I would be doing lots of planning, but it was very much, whilst we had plans, it was very much we designed the first bit for the first couple of months, and then we keep adding on technology and adding on different parts to the actual process. So again, the two key things that I benefited, or the company benefited, was having the expertise from Jerry of looking at the business planning, and Yongmin from the point of view of how you create the technology. In terms of some of the challenges we had, I think probably our first challenge was actually trying to get the right associate, where that worked very well, where myself and the academic supervisor and also our internal company supervisor interviewed various candidates, and we could come about it from different points of view. The technology was dealt with by the academic supervisor, and then from my point of view, it was very much on, does this person fit and would fit into the team? And you know, we've got a great associate who worked with the team. He sits opposite me in the office. He sits within the team. He talks to everybody. And I think one of the things about I found is, how do you get information about what we do to a technology and someone who could do coding and understand what we do? But it's essential, I found, that having somebody in the office who can look at something and then just ask a question, maybe not just of me, but all the members of the team or different people within the team, about some of the problems about why we do things this way and why we don't. It's really helped push forward the project. What we do is very complicated. There's lots of complex rules. And instead of writing a great big long plan of every single rule, which we might miss a few, as we go through and develop the process, he's been able to sit down and ask the people and ask the various members of the team. The other real big advantage we've had is that we meet weekly. So we set our goals for the week, we review what we've done, review some of the issues, and we come out with solutions. And in addition to that, we also sit down with Jerry every 4 months to review where we are on target on plan. It's very easy to go back to the day job and actually keep pushing technology. So from my point of view and the business point of view, having the structure of the weekly meetings, somebody in the office, and having the 4 monthly meetings has been a really good way to keep the project moving, hit our targets, and get to where we want to. So what have we achieved to date? On the screen, you may see that the sort of top left, we've got a lot of Excel templates, which is the way we used to work. What we've done now, that's been hard coded with lots of rules. We've also used artificial intelligence and various platforms to actually code various items. We've gone out to the market to get designers in to design our software and then implement it. And this has all been linked with the associate who's gone out and got the tenders, looked at who we should go for, and then we've put this process through. And then finally, our outputs, where we're looking at how we do this as well. It's benefited business in a number of ways. One, we're starting to use the system full time from the 1st of August. So I believe that will create about 30% efficiency in what we do. Sometimes we get lines of data, which could take somebody a couple of days to code. At the moment, the AI software we're using will do that in about 5 seconds, and then we check the key parts to it. The other thing that it's going to generate fee income is that, there's a big change in the finance and the accountancy markets. Everyone's looking for some software to help them make their processes earlier. And we have a number of external accountants who we're going to be dealing with in September, who we've got meetings set up with to trial the software. Then once we've got the trials through and gone through the user experience, we're going to launch next year. So at the moment, it's quite exciting, but it's very exciting. We've got a number of USPs, we believe, this project isn't being done elsewhere. We get fairly poor data. We supplement it with the models we've designed, which then are automatically introduced. We have an AI system that codes that data. And then finally, we have an output, not just for the accountant and the final end user, but we can benchmark this against every project. So at the end of every month, the system learns what people have done. It learns the benchmark data and it reanalyzes it. So it is a constant improving process. And then finally, the future and where we're going next. This is something we're constantly considering and how we're going to deal with this. One way is to look at further funding. Another way is to get private investment. We have people quite interested in what we're doing and asking how they can get involved with us, whether that is tech companies or other accountancy firms. But certainly, by the time we get to the start of next year, we expect to launch the project. I would say that we wouldn't be here now if we hadn't done a KTP. It certainly helps that whole process of having the academic supervisor, the KTP associate, and Jerry, the KTP advisor as well. That whole process has helped to get to where we are today. And I shall stop my slides. Thank you.
That's great. Thanks very much, Clive, for this overview of your experience with KTP and how it has worked well for you and your business. So now we have Diane Miners, who's a professional mechanical aerospace engineering here at Brunel, has her own experience from Brunel from an academic point of view.
Yeah, thanks for the introduction. I confess I might not actually keep to the script. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Excellent. So I thought I better first start by sort of going through. That's decided it's not going to move. Ah, there we are. My experience. So I added up in one of these columns the total number of years that I've been doing KTPs, ignoring the one where I had 2 going at once, and that's 14 years. So I thought I'd go through a little bit of the type of companies or organizations I've worked with. So the first one is a CSW up in Leicestershire, and that's a cold forming company, makes all the little widgets, the screws, the small metal bits from a process called cold forming, and they were worried about their die design process. Then I ran another one, which was with the CBM, and if anybody knows about anything about the metal forming industry, it was exactly the time when the sheet metal industry was merging with the bulk metal industry, the hot forgers, the cold forgers, the industry mentioned above, into one trade association called the Confederation of British Metal Forming. And what they wanted to do with their 300 members was get them to adopt software to enable them to simulate the metal forming process, because it was an absolute necessity for that industry, all parts of it, to actually adopt that. So we did that very successfully, but it was actually the trade association that was driving it. And it was justifiable to members. So they were gaining 2 members of staff and 2 associates, and it was justifiable to their members because it was helping across the industry. And that program was, although it was 2 years long, we had 2 associates working in parallel, one on the sheet metal side and one on the bulk forming side of the industry. Now, because we'd done this work with one trade association, another trade association approached us and said, right, can you help us? We have a similar problem. We need to actually satisfy the needs of our members, and we actually need to understand for them what the future is in technology. So this is the Gauge and Toolmakers Association, but they are much broader than that in that they're looking at things like bringing back or preventing things going offshore for production, and reshoring. So they didn't like the offshoring, they were reshoring production, and a range of other things. So that Toolmakers Association goes everything from machine manufacturers right to very tiny companies making single parts. And that was to look at the technical services we could do for the company, but also horizon scanning. So the associate for this did a lot of work, and we ended up engaging with Cambridge University as well to actually look at the best way to horizon scan technology, for which there were various papers produced. The next one, which is AT and enclosures, fairly straightforward. They made waterproof electrical enclosures, and they wanted to automate the process, which we did very well, and that was a 2-year project. Now, as a result of that CBM project, the sheet metal president of the sheet metal side, the lead sheet metal industry, was Phil Hadley, who was Hadley Industries. Small company, West Midlands, started in the 60s, said, could you come along and look at how we design things? Because we don't seem to be able to design consistently. And this is their tooling. And it's a cold roll forming product company. So they make an awful lot of their own machineries and their own tools to make profile sections that you'll see everywhere. And we did that. That was a 3-year program, and it was working on their patented process, which is something called ultra steel. And then they grew dramatically. Phil Hadley retired, taken over by the finance director, Stuart Toe, grows dramatically, buys companies all around the UK and abroad. So now it's a large company. They don't need the finance for this, but they wanted to do another KTP, and I'll go through one minute. So there's loads of different things there, and that sort of gives you a bit of background as to where I am. So I'm supposed to be talking about the academic perspective, but I thought I would talk about the organisation, the actual organisations we were helping, and what I was seeing with my conversations with them. So the projects were all different, but they were strategically important, which is what Jerry was saying, to the organisation we were working with. But the key thing was, it wasn't a student working on something at the university or someone working at something at the university. It was absolutely, this was effectively an employee of the company working at the organisation. And Jerry said we could do it virtually and hybrid and everything else, but traditionally, the fact that the academics went to the organisation was what the company wanted. It wasn't something, it was definitely an organisation activity. What they also liked was the fact that when we were appointing, we were doing that as a joint activity. So it wasn't the university saying, here's someone, or the company saying, yeah, we're having this person. It was a joint activity with the applicant pool being the world. So it wasn't a member of Brunel University going to work there or a student, past student Brunel. It was anybody from across the world that wished to apply. So that gave a wide spread. And also, as Jerry has said, we were looking to, or the company was looking, if they were going to spend all this time, a minimum of 2 years, some of those were 3 years. The joint one was effectively 4 years of effort to keep that person on afterwards. So that it was effectively acting as a long interview. And in each one of those cases, the person doing the role was offered the job, and the majority of them stayed and carried on. Some of them stayed for, or still there. Some of them stayed for 10 years and then found alternative jobs, which is fair enough. The advantage for the company was, although we'd got a big pool, we'd employed them, etc., it's actually the university that's the employer. So from an HR perspective, the burden sits with the university and not the company. So if something goes wrong, it's the university's problem. If the company doesn't wish to carry on the employment, they've never been employed with the company in the first place. It's been employed by the university, the person. So it gives it lessens the burden for the company. It removes that risk. What happens if it doesn't work? What happens if this? What happens if that? Obviously, the financial support was key, especially for the trade associations, because trade associations are non-for-profit organisations, and that is actually very important. Now, when I was talking about Hadley's on the other slide, I said that it was a small company that turned into a large company, and they didn't need the financial support, but they're still looking for KTPs, and they have, I think they've got 2 running now. They wanted the structure. So they've got their strategically important project. But what happens is when you've got someone working on a project, they're pulled away. Can you just do this? Oh, we've got an emergency. We've got that. Can you do this? So the big project that might not be absolutely necessary today, but was strategically a long-term necessary, kept getting delayed. But with a structure where you've got quarterly meetings with Jerry, who represents, as you said, the KTM, the funder, and you've got the academic there, and the associate has to report, and the company has to make sure everything's working. It kept their major projects on track. It also enabled them to, required them to develop that associate. And perhaps if it was just an employee, it get dragged and moved apart and not developed in the same way. So that structure was actually driving the demand from some of these larger companies like Hadley's. And I think Jaguar and Land Rover have projects like this all the time. Now, for some of these companies, it was important that they were seen to be working with the university, because if it's small and hasn't got a research and development department, and they're trying to show how important they are and how they're keeping up with their research and their development, they are leading the way in whatever they're doing, then by working with the university, they can market that. Our research and development department isn't just in-house, it's also with the university. And so they were the sort of key drivers that were driving the organization's desire to do these projects. Now, from my perspective, which was actually what I was supposed to be talking about, or the university perspective, the first project I was handed was, and it was handed, I didn't write it. I was a research officer, a junior postdoc, not even a full-time of the university I was working at. And my boss said, just go and sort this out, will you? No paperwork, no idea what they've applied for. It's in Leicester, by the way, and just go up there and work it out. And I found that I had complete access to everything in the company. I had an associate that was already employed, and you could do real things. And we did lots of real things over 2 years. So to me, I really like this because it's a real project. It has major impact in the company. It's strategically important, but you get to do it with someone that's dedicated, the associate, but you get to do it in the place of the workplace. You're not trying to do it in a little lab. You're not trying to do something on your desk. You're doing it with the real systems and activities. Now, where I said the organization likes the technical marketing, what we were doing when we were talking to the companies is going, right, how are you going to formalize this technical marketing? You put it on your website, it's great. The way we can formalize it is to write academic journal papers. So you can put those on the website, and you've got the backing behind the fact that you've got technical marketing, an R&D department. So from my perspective, or the university perspective, writing those joint papers with the company as a named author with the university solved my problem where I needed to write journal papers, but also gave something to the organization. And so for some of these industries we were talking about, they're out there with trying to win contracts against German companies. And if it's a big German company, then they're working with the local university in exactly the same sort of format. They call it different names, but it's the same format. And they've got, you know, they hadn't got the credibility to say, yeah, we've got our technical marketing, we have got a university, but by giving them the papers and through the development fund, allowing the associate to go and present at the industry academic joint conferences, they had a lot of credibility. It was giving them that confidence. They were beginning to win markets for that. From my perspective as well, being in that company, I can see what the future projects are. So with Hadley's, we started off with the CBM, with that first project with the Trade Association, which Hadley was a member. I've been working with Hadley's now for 23 years. And we've had projects of various types, not all KTPs, all the way through that. And the supervisor has changed, is now the technical director of the whole group. One of the other projects I did was what was called an engineering doctorate, and that person is quite often the person that I now go to, and they become the industrial supervisor or provide another industrial supervisor for our other projects. So once we've solved one thing, we're moving on to the next thing. We're solving the next thing and the next thing. So it's a continuous activity. Then you get this long-term collaboration. And when I want their support for something that perhaps doesn't fit within needing to be done there, but it would be interesting. So a research project. So if I'm applying for EPSRC or European project or something, they will come in as a supporter for that. They will write the letter, they will provide cash, they will provide collaboration. They provide an awful lot of projects. So I've got 2 MSc students that go up to Hadley's now, and they're working on real life projects. And Hadley's has given me, and we've given to our careers centre, 4 job opportunities that I think the starting salaries are 35,000, 40,000. They also came to the virtual launch of our Formula student car, and they've gone, can we employ those people? So I've got a Formula student team that now, if they wish, the members can have personalised job descriptions to go and work for Hadley's. I have explained to Hadley's that they actually will want to go and play with cars, and some of them have already been offered jobs at Formula 1 cars, so it might not happen, but at least they get to see and there's an activity. For me, I like getting out of the office and going working in companies. So to me, it's a perfect thing. From that very first one, where I was up in Leicester, I was working at Bath at the time, so I was going to Leicester all the time, Market Harborough, all the way through to going. I had one in Princess Risborough on that list, just going to Princess Risborough, all over the place. But I love getting out of the office, our work environment, to go and work in their work environment. So I think, you know, around all, if you get that linked together, as Jerry said, they get a good employee that's been totally grounded and trained. We keep that link with the associate and the company, and we carry on building, and it solves. You know, we're working with companies, that's the KEF and the REF bit that Jerry was talking about. I'm getting my academic papers, that's my requirement. We're getting in funding, so we look like we're engaged, and we're building additional links as we go. So I think I will stop there. I have got another slide which shows all these strange projects on, but I think I'll stop here, and unless anyone desperately wants to see it.
Thanks very much, Diane. That was an excellent overview of your perspective, but also the organization's perspective in your eyes. So that's excellent. So now we move on to Rachel, who will give just a final kind of briefing of how KTPs work at Brunel.
Thank you. Hopefully you can see that.
Yes, we can. It's just not in slide mode, but it's fine.
It's trying. Here we are. Okay,
that's perfect. Thank you.
Okay, so as Remco said, just a couple of minutes before the Q&A session, just to talk a little bit about some of the other areas we've worked in and KTPs at Brunel. You've heard from Veritas already. We've got 3 KTPs running at the moment. Most of us at the moment are kind of engineering or physical scientist based or computing, but we do have, you know, I know that there are academics in our business school that are very interested, also in the life sciences or the health sciences. So if you're a business looking for expertise in any of those areas, then just because we've mostly got sort of engineering at the moment doesn't mean that we're not interested in doing those. Certainly KTPs can cover any kind of area, so you know, do get in touch if you're interested in pretty much anything that we've got academics in at Brunel. To talk a little bit about company size, so as I say, we've got 3 KTPs at the moment. Reconomy here is really quite a startup. You know, they've been going just for a few years, and they are a company that provides refurbished IT equipment to the education sector and community impact. So they're taking in IT equipment that maybe big corporates have finished with. It's not really you know, up to their standard at the moment, but it would be perfectly usable for the education sector, for example. So Reconomy wanted our expertise in you know, working out how they could present to corporates what the benefits to them of putting their used IT equipment through this route, rather than you know, the normal sort of waste streams. So we're working with them on sustainability assessment and putting those kind of all that data together for them, and obviously transferring them the knowledge that they will be able to continue to do that afterwards. The other KTP that we've got is really just starting. We're in the recruitment phase. That's a company that's been in existence much longer. They're already well established, but they want to move away from their sort of industrial sort of charger focus into EV charging, and they're wanting to look at the sort of newest things that are at university level. They're, you know, the things that they can then bring into their company to put them ahead really of the market. So just a final slide to tell you, you know, if you're interested in working with us, then the Research Support and Development Office will support you all the way through the application, and then once you've got a successful project, we'll also support the post award in recruitment, and then supporting the project you know, through its lifetime. If you're a business that's already working with an academic, that's great. You know, talk to them about your ideas, and then I can sort of work with you, and we'll see if it fits the scheme, and I can take you through the whole sort of application process. If you don't have an academic that you're working with already, then get in touch, and I can put you in touch with you know, whichever the appropriate academics are here. I know we've got academics on the call, so if you're working with a business, you know, talk to me, and we can see if it fits the KTP scheme. But if you're interested in starting to develop relationships with businesses, then our business development managers can help you with that. It might not be KTP, it might be you know, a number of other ways that we work with businesses, but start those relationships and start talking to businesses and see how your expertise fits and what they might be able to use that for. So you've got my contact details there. Just drop me an email, and I look forward to hearing from you.